Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin. In a desperate move to improve their reputation with the customers, Nintendo has made a bold move announcing a few things. And no, I'm not talking about the price hike, the possible price hike of the Switch 2 and blaming the tariffs. I'm not even talking about the interesting addition to the end user license agreement when it comes to, oh, what was it, class action lawsuits and whether you can or not. That's a whole different story. No, they're implementing something to combat piracy. And sure, everybody's going to have a different opinion on this one. Sure, a company needs to protect their IP, protect their product and whatnot. But this is something that needs to be talked about and thought about. So get your tinfoil hats on. We're going full on conspiracy theory, maybe black pill, maybe just absolute worst case scenario, because that's what my brain does to me. And this is coming out of Dexerto. Nintendo is willing to brick Switch 2 consoles to tackle piracy. So if you jailbreak your Switch 2, and probably this is retroactive as well, sure it's retroactive for the EULA on the Switch 1, that if they detect it, they can just shut your system off and you never get to play it again. I believe this is not new for Nintendo. Y'all correct me in the comment section. Do other electronic device creators, does Apple do this? Does Samsung do this? Do any of the other ones do this? I don't know, but this is an interesting conversation, but there will be a reason. I'll get to it eventually. Hey, tangents. Nintendo has made some major changes to its account user agreement and privacy policy in an attempt to stop Switch 2 piracy. You're not going to stop piracy. People who want the game are going to find the game. Is it legal? Probably not. Of course it's not legal. That's not even what I'm talking about. But that's like saying you will not be able to hack this system. Within 15 minutes, it gets hacked. It gets cracked. It's jailbroken. Because that's what people do. When you tell them you can't do something, they will figure out ways to get it done in a very efficient amount of time. Nintendo has never been shy when it comes to protecting its intellectual property. Oh boy, no kidding. Last year, the video game company made headlines after shutting down several high-profile emulators, which enabled players to run Switch games on their PC. Yeah, they also had a massive lawsuit against, what was it? I think South American gas station. What was it? A store owner named Mario, who named his business Super Mario. They went after him. Thank goodness they lost. But yeah, that is how petty, how trivial Nintendo attorneys can be. I get it, protecting your IP, but they don't want competition. Whole other story. More recently, Nintendo issued a lawsuit against third-party accessory manufacturer after they leaked unofficial mock-ups and renderings of the Nintendo Switch 2. And of course, the discussion about Pal World is ongoing. Why? Because every time Nintendo gets kicked out of the courts with one patent or another, they come up with a new one to take Pocket Pair back to court, essentially trying to drown them in attorney's fees until they have nothing left. And yet we're going to praise Nintendo, but whatever. Pokemon-inspired game Pal World is also tied up in an ongoing legal battle and has been forced to make changes to their game. But Pal World stole this and stole that. Yeah, you know what? Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest would like to have a little discussion with Nintendo on inspiration. Nobody wants to talk about that, do they? However, Nintendo has outlined a new method that it hopes will stop Switch 2 piracy, because I know how to speak, dead in its tracks. Nintendo, from another continent, will be able to brick Switch 2 consoles. Now, those of you that may not know what it means to brick a console, to brick a computer, essentially something so bad happens, flip a switch, do whatever, maybe a lightning strike. It turns your electronic device into a paperweight. It bricks it. It has become no better, no more useful than a brick you use for building. Hell, I have Lego bricks that will be more useful than that. As discovered by GameFile's Stephen Totillo, Nintendo will be able to brick Switch 2 systems that, quote, bypass, modify, decrypt, defeat, tamper with their games and services. I am of the mind, personally, that once I buy your product, it's mine. It belongs to me. I can do whatever the heck I want with it. But no, Nintendo does not believe this is so. Maybe they're taking a playbook. Maybe they're taking a move out of Ubisoft's playbook. You will own nothing, and you will like it. As of May 8th, I already passed at the time of recording this video, Nintendo has started rolling out emails to all Nintendo account users, which now come with some amendments to its user agreement policy. Let's see what this says. Quote, without limitation, you agree. Oh, this is disgusting. You agree that you may not A, publish, copy, modify, reverse engineer, lease, rent, decompile, disassemble, distribute, offer for sale. You can't even sell. Wait, what? Hold on. Offer for sale or create derivative works of any portion of a Nintendo account service. B, bypass, modify, decrypt, defeat, tamper with, or otherwise circumvent any of the functions or protections of Nintendo account services, including through the use of any hardware or software that would cause the Nintendo account services to operate other than in accordance with, this is a lot of legal speak, in accordance with its documentation and intended use. C, obtain, install, use any unauthorized copies of Nintendo account services, or D, exploit Nintendo account services in any manner other than to use them in accordance with the applicable documentation and intended use, in each case without Nintendo's written consent or express authorization, which they will never give, or unless otherwise expressly permitted by applicable law. You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and or the applicable Nintendo device permanently unusual in whole or in part. Brick your shit. As you can see, the most important part there is the actual bricking of players' consoles, which have been bolded. Yes, indeed. Now, why is this important? Well, other companies do it. You're breaking the law. You're putting emulation. You're putting ROMs on it. You're stealing the games. You're taking money out of the big corporations' pockets. People that emulate the stuff, good percentage of them already own the game and want preservation. There are movements out there to preserve these games that Nintendo doesn't sell in order to, preserve them. I said preserve entirely too many times. But what's really important is the idea that, sure, if you do any of these nasty, naughty, filthy little things, Nintendo can shut your device down permanently. Now, what if you say the wrong thing? Let's take this all the way to unlikely conclusion, possible conclusion. Take it all the way to worst case scenario, all the way to the end, where what if you criticize Nintendo for their actions against Pocket Pair? If you do it entirely too much, they go after you, they find out your account, and they just brick your shit after you spent, well, let's see, how much is the Switch 2 right now? $450 to $500. And they say, nope, we don't like what you had to say about us. You are a very naughty, naughty person. So they brick your system. You can't use it anymore. How is this okay? How is this legal, honestly? I'm sure loopholes and whatnot. Let's see what the rest of the article is. You can see the important part, yes. Totillo points out that the new agreement is much more intense in its nature, especially when it comes to Nintendo. How could it be more intense for Nintendo? We all know who they are, and yet people still throwing money at them. I planned on getting a Switch 2 console simply because, hey, maybe FOMO, maybe getting it to play Metroid Dread. Then I thought once the prices came out and all the ridiculous nature around that and my opinion on the prices of the older games and jacking them up simply because, ooh, look, the new resolution. But now I don't even think I want a regular Switch 1 at a dirt cheap price. The idea that Nintendo, and it's right here, where, let's see, you can't disassemble it, distribute, offer for sale. So they put in the end user license agreement that you cannot, once you're done with your Switch or your Switch 2, you can't even sell it. So if you sell it to another user, or what if you sell your account to another user? I know there's lots of EULAs out there that say you cannot give your password, you cannot offer for sale, you can't do this, you can't do that, which is preposterous in and of itself, honestly, because, well, it's mine. I spent money on it. I paid for it. I should be allowed to do with it what I feel. Now, if you have online multiplayer games, I don't have a problem with that because you have to go up against cheaters and hackers and whatnot, people who get an unfair advantage against your average everyday user. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. But telling me that I can't use this piece of electronics as I see fit simply because you don't want people playing games that you don't sell anymore, well, that rubs me the wrong way. And like I said, full bore, all the way, worst case scenario. Say something wrong about Nintendo. Badmouth Pokemon. Badmouth Mario. Say something about the CEO. Talk about Doug Bowser. And somebody gets a wild hair and shuts down your system simply because, or maybe you voted for the wrong person. Like I said, get your tinfoil hats on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going full blown worst case scenario conspiracy theory. This is something that more and more people should probably question. Or maybe I'm just crazy. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like, leave a dislike. How do you like the idea of a console company just being able to shut your shit down anytime they feel like it? But they have to have a reason. Technically, they don't. But anyway, I tried to do my outro, but I had more to say. But anyway, that's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.